A colleague of mine, a very successful real estate guy, said last summer, he said, my net worth is like a rubber band. He said, every time I stretch it out, it snaps back and hits me in the thumb. And I thought, that's been the story of real estate in 07, 08, 09, when the collapse happened. We all suffered. And now it's maybe time to turn the tone over to what is the recovery going to look like versus what does the abyss look like. I think the staring into the scary abyss days are gone.
A guy on the plane was complaining to me across the aisle on the way here, and he said he lost $40,000 on his home. And I said, well, how much was the price range? He said, about 220 is when he bought it at. And this was in first class, by the way. He must fly a lot. That sounds to me like housing is free. It tells me employers can hire people here because the cost of living is reasonable.
We're very fortunate to have a very diverse economic base in this community. It's helped us. But I'm a little more pessimistic in the long term, and I think the system in financing, in business practices, in real estate decision-making is going to go through some fundamental changes.
I think this recovery is going to be more of a jobless recovery, and the only thing in my mind that's going to drive rates is demand. And we've got so much shadow space out there yet, so much sublease space, that vacancies for office are still in that 18.9% range market-wide, which is probably 5 points over equilibrium.
So would you say that confidence is coming back slowly or very slowly?
It depends on the sector to some extent too. You know, I agree. I think in education and healthcare and even in some of the technology areas, we're seeing some great earnings, some great numbers. But if you're still housing related or architectural, a lot of our architectural services firms are really struggling right now because there's no new development occurring. So it really depends on the sector that the industry is related to.
When somebody asks me what it takes to get a deal done, I presume that they're not talking about developing anything. Maybe apartments in very few locations strong enough to support them, and quite often only with an FHA loan or some other financial mechanism that brings equity in early, and a lot of it.
What I will say has changed is the amount of brain damage, as Glenn referred to it. That has gotten much more in depth as far as who is this person, what are they, what are their character issues, what else do they have going on in their portfolio. We're looking at things much more deeply than we used to. Credit scores have become more important than they were before. We used to say, you know, okay, if you're, 600, 650 and above, no problem. Now you need to be more in the 700 range.
I've been very surprised with the institutional lenders, CMBS, and even the commercial banks at their willingness to roll this stuff over on a very short-term basis. And I think that's a good thing.
The expectation for the balance of the year, more liquidity, more sale volume, and really geared toward this core product. There's a real feeling among sellers that with liquidity return, they can start to move chips around the table. So if I have office or industrial in Minneapolis, I want more in the coastal markets, which is a pretty typical conversation we have. And you have liquidity to sell in Minneapolis.
So again, just as a final statement, I would agree with a number of the sentiments that we've heard here today, that I think if we're not at the bottom, I think we certainly are approaching it, and I think now is the time for us to start looking at our projects and deciding where they need to go and what they need to look at as we go further. So thank you.